Every single day, countless adults try to improve their health by walking more. They commit to morning walks, evening walks, long walks on weekends, and yet many of them still end up frustrated. Their knees hurt, their lower back tightens up, their legs feel heavy afterward instead of energized. Some even begin believing that walking simply doesn't work for them anymore. But here is something important that almost nobody explains clearly. In many cases, the problem is not that people walk too little. The problem is how they walk, because walking the wrong way does not simply reduce the benefits. Sometimes it creates entirely new problems. And after the age of 50, the body becomes much less forgiving of repeated mechanical mistakes. Small errors that barely mattered at 30 can create real discomfort later in life. Today we are going to go through several extremely common walking mistakes adults make after 50, why those mistakes affect the body so strongly, and what simple adjustments may help make walking feel easier, safer, and more beneficial over time. And before we begin, let me make something clear. Walking remains one of the most accessible forms of movement available. You do not need expensive equipment. You do not need a gym membership. You do not need advanced athletic ability. But the body still responds best when movement is done intelligently and consistently. Now let's begin with something many people underestimate completely. Why walking becomes increasingly important after 50. As people age, several predictable physical changes begin happening gradually throughout the body. Muscle mass slowly decreases, joint tissues become less resilient, metabolism changes, circulation becomes less efficient, balance and coordination often become less automatic than they once were. These are common biological changes associated with aging, and movement plays a major role in helping the body adapt to them more successfully. For example, muscle tissue naturally changes over time, and muscles are not only important for strength, they also help stabilize joints, support posture, assist circulation, improve balance, and help regulate blood sugar. That matters tremendously later in life, because when muscles weaken significantly, many other problems often begin appearing afterward. Movement also helps support joint health. Joints depend heavily on regular movement to distribute lubrication and nutrients throughout the tissues. When people become too sedentary for long periods, stiffness often increases, range of motion decreases, and everyday movement may begin feeling more difficult than it should. Circulation changes too. Many adults over 50 notice colder feet, tired legs, cramps, or heaviness later in the day. Movement helps support healthy blood flow throughout the body, and walking may help stimulate multiple systems at once when performed correctly. But here's the key phrase: when performed correctly. Because poor walking habits can create unnecessary strain on joints, muscles, posture, and circulation. So let's begin with one of the biggest mistakes: starting too fast. This is incredibly common. People leave the house and immediately begin walking at full speed. They treat the first minute of movement exactly the same as minute 20. But the body needs transition time. Muscles need time to warm up. Joints need time to begin moving smoothly. Circulation and breathing need time to adjust gradually. When people begin too aggressively, the body often responds with unnecessary tension and strain. Some people notice tight calves. Others notice knee discomfort or shortness of breath very early into the walk. And many assume this means they are simply out of shape. But often the issue is pacing, not capability. A slower beginning allows the body to shift gradually from rest into movement. Even 3 to 5 minutes of easier walking at the beginning can make a surprisingly large difference. Many adults notice that once they stop rushing the beginning of the walk, the rest of the session feels dramatically smoother and more comfortable. Now let's move to another extremely common mistake: poor posture while walking. Go outside and watch people walk for 10 minutes and you will notice the same pattern repeatedly. Head pushed forward, shoulders rounded, eyes aimed down toward the pavement or a phone screen. This posture may feel harmless at first, but over time it places enormous stress on the neck, upper back, lower spine, hips, and even breathing mechanics. The human head is surprisingly heavy, and when it shifts forward even slightly, the muscles of the neck and upper back must work much harder continuously. That constant tension often contributes to neck tightness, shoulder fatigue, headaches, and poor posture patterns throughout the rest of the body. But the effects do not stop there. When the chest collapses forward, breathing becomes shallower. The lungs cannot expand as efficiently, and less efficient breathing may leave people feeling more tired during walks, even when the pace itself is not very demanding. Some adults blame age entirely for this fatigue, when posture is actually playing a major role. Posture also affects movement mechanics throughout the lower body. When the upper body leans improperly, the hips, knees, and ankles often compensate automatically. Over time, that may increase stress on joints and contribute to discomfort during longer walks. A much better approach is simple. Relax the shoulders. Keep the chest open naturally. Allow the spine to lengthen gently upward. Keep the eyes looking forward instead of constantly downward. Not stiff, not forced, just aligned. Many people immediately notice breathing feels easier and walking feels lighter once posture improves. Now let's talk about something people often ignore completely: shoes. This may be one of the most underestimated factors in comfortable walking after 50. Because what sits between your body and the ground matters tremendously over thousands of repeated steps. As people age, natural cushioning under the feet gradually changes. The muscles and connective tissues supporting the feet also change over time. That means footwear becomes increasingly important for reducing unnecessary stress on the knees, hips, and lower back. Some people continue using shoes that are years old simply because the outside still looks fine. But walking shoes lose shock absorption long before they visually fall apart. And worn-out support changes the way force travels through the body with every step. One common issue specialists often discuss is arch support. When the foot loses proper support, movement mechanics higher up the body may change too. Knees rotate differently, hips compensate, the lower back absorbs additional stress, and because these changes happen gradually, people often fail to connect their discomfort with footwear at all. Good walking shoes do not need to be expensive or overly complicated, but they should feel stable, supportive, and comfortable for your foot shape. They should provide reasonable cushioning without feeling unstable or excessively soft. And importantly, they should be replaced periodically if used consistently. Many adults notice a dramatic difference in comfort once they finally stop walking in worn-out shoes. Now let's move to another major mistake: walking very rarely, but doing extremely long walks when you finally do. This pattern is incredibly common. People stay inactive most of the week. Then on one day, they suddenly attempt a very long walk, believing they are making up for lost movement. Unfortunately, the body does not respond especially well to that pattern. The body adapts best to consistency, not occasional overload. Repeated moderate movement sends the body a regular signal: stay active, maintain circulation, preserve muscle, support joint mobility. But isolated, intense sessions after long inactivity often feel much harder physically and may increase soreness afterward. That is why many adults conclude that walking hurts their body when the real issue is inconsistency. For many people, shorter walks performed more regularly work much better than rare, exhausting sessions. Even moderate daily movement may provide more lasting benefit than occasional extreme effort. And this is especially important after 50 because recovery often takes longer than it did earlier in life. Now let's continue with another walking mistake that almost nobody thinks about: keeping the arms completely still. Many people walk with their arms hanging stiffly at their sides. Others keep their hands in their pockets the entire time. And some barely move their upper body at all while walking. It feels natural, comfortable even. But walking is actually designed to be a full-body coordinated movement pattern. When your right leg moves forward, your left arm naturally swings forward as well, and the opposite happens on the other side. This cross-body rhythm helps distribute movement smoothly throughout the body. When the arms stop moving, the body often compensates in less efficient ways. The lower back may rotate more awkwardly. Balance may feel less stable. Walking may feel heavier and less fluid overall. Proper arm movement also activates more muscles throughout the upper body. That means better circulation, slightly higher energy expenditure, and improved coordination during the walk itself. And after 50, coordination becomes increasingly important because balance systems gradually become less automatic with age. A natural arm swing helps support rhythm and stability. The key word here is natural. You do not need exaggerated athletic movements, just relaxed arm motion in rhythm with your steps. Shoulders relaxed, elbows bent slightly. Nothing forced. Many people notice that once they stop freezing their arms, walking suddenly feels smoother and easier almost immediately. Now let's talk about one of the most modern walking mistakes of all: walking while staring at a phone. This has become incredibly common. People go outside intending to improve their health, but spend the entire walk looking down at messages, videos, or social media feeds. And unfortunately, this creates several problems at once. First, posture immediately collapses. The head tilts downward. The neck bends forward. The shoulders round inward. Breathing becomes shallower. Everything we discussed earlier about posture becomes dramatically worse. But there is another issue that matters even more after 50: balance. As people age, the body gradually relies more heavily on visual information to maintain stable movement and orientation. When your eyes remain focused on a screen instead of the environment around you, your brain receives less useful spatial information. That means uneven pavement, curbs, stairs, wet surfaces, or obstacles may be noticed too late, and falls become much more dangerous later in life. Many younger adults recover quickly from falls, but after 50 or 60, falls may lead to fractures, long recovery periods, reduced mobility, and loss of confidence during movement afterward. That is why attention during walking matters tremendously. Walking is not only physical movement, it is also neurological training, awareness, coordination, balance, spatial orientation, attention to surroundings. All of these systems become active during a focused walk. But much of that benefit disappears when the brain stays locked onto a phone screen instead. If you want music, podcasts, or audio during a walk, that is completely different. The issue is not audio. The issue is constantly staring downward at a screen. One simple rule may help enormously. When you walk, let the walk itself become the activity. Pay attention to your breathing, your surroundings, your posture, your pace, your movement. That awareness alone often changes how the body feels during and after the walk. Now let's move to another extremely overlooked topic: recovery after walking. Most people assume walking is so gentle that recovery does not matter, but recovery matters far more than many adults realize, especially after 50. Start with hydration. Muscles and connective tissues depend heavily on water for proper function. Even mild dehydration may increase fatigue, stiffness, and muscle tightness. Some adults finish a walk feeling drained not because the walk itself was excessive, but because hydration was poor throughout the day. Something as simple as drinking water after walking may help support recovery more than people expect. Stretching matters too. During walking, muscles repeatedly contract in similar movement patterns. Without occasional stretching afterward, certain muscles may gradually become tighter over time. Many adults notice stiffness, especially in the calves, hips, hamstrings, and lower back. Gentle stretching after walking may help maintain mobility and reduce that lingering tightness. And gentle truly matters here. Not aggressive stretching, not painful stretching, just controlled, comfortable movement to help the body relax afterward. Recovery also includes rest days. This is another area where many people become confused. Some believe that if walking is healthy, then more walking must always be better. But the body actually adapts during recovery periods. That is when muscles rebuild. That is when tissues recover from repeated loading. That is when the nervous system adjusts to activity. Without adequate recovery, discomfort often accumulates gradually. 1 or 2 lighter days during the week are not weakness. They are part of sustainable movement. And sustainability matters far more than intensity later in life. Now here is something extremely important. The same walking mistakes become more significant with age. At 30, the body often compensates surprisingly well for poor posture, worn-out shoes, bad pacing, and inconsistent recovery. At 55 or 65, those same habits may begin producing real symptoms: knee discomfort, back tightness, foot pain, fatigue, balance issues, neck tension. And because these problems develop gradually, many adults assume they are simply getting old. But often the body is responding to repeated mechanical stress patterns that can actually be improved. That is encouraging, because it means people are not necessarily powerless. Small adjustments may create very noticeable improvements over time. One woman explained that after adjusting her walking posture and replacing old shoes, her daily walks suddenly stopped leaving her exhausted. Another man realized that beginning too aggressively was the reason his knees always hurt during the first 10 minutes. After slowing his pace at the start, walking became far more comfortable. Small changes, but meaningful results. And that is often how healthy aging works. Not through dramatic overnight transformation, but through small, sustainable habits repeated consistently over time. Before we move into the final section, take a moment to subscribe to the channel if you enjoy practical videos focused on healthy aging, mobility, balance, circulation, strength, and everyday wellness after 50. Now let's bring everything together. Now let's put everything together into a simple, practical approach you can actually use. Because the goal is not simply to walk more. The goal is to walk in a way that supports your body instead of gradually wearing it down. And the good news is that most of these adjustments are surprisingly simple. You do not need perfect technique. You do not need athletic ability. You simply need awareness and consistency. The first habit is starting slowly. For the first few minutes of every walk, allow the body to ease into movement gradually. This gives muscles time to warm up, joints time to move more comfortably, breathing time to settle into rhythm, and circulation time to increase smoothly. Many adults notice that when they stop rushing the beginning of the walk, they feel stronger for the rest of it. The second habit is posture awareness, not stiff posture, not forced posture, just aligned posture. Shoulders relaxed, chest open naturally, eyes looking ahead, head balanced comfortably over the spine instead of hanging forward. Even small improvements in posture may reduce unnecessary strain throughout the neck, back, hips, and knees. The third habit is paying attention to footwear. If shoes are heavily worn, unstable, uncomfortable, or several years old despite regular use, they may no longer be supporting your movement properly. And because walking involves thousands of repeated steps, even small support problems add up over time. Many adults underestimate how much better walking can feel after replacing shoes that quietly lost their support long ago. The fourth habit is consistency. The body responds to repeated movement patterns much more effectively than occasional extreme effort. Shorter, regular walks often work better than rare, exhausting ones. And consistency does not need to look dramatic. Some days may be 20 minutes, some days 30, some days slower, some days faster. What matters most is maintaining the habit over time, because the body adapts to what repeats, not to what happens once in a while. The fifth habit is allowing the whole body to participate in walking, relaxed arm movement, natural rhythm, steady breathing, awareness of movement. Walking becomes smoother and more efficient when the body works together instead of in isolated, stiff sections. The sixth habit is removing unnecessary distractions. Walking while fully present changes the experience completely. Many people notice that focused walks feel calmer mentally and easier physically. The nervous system benefits too. Coordination, awareness, balance, attention. All of these systems become engaged during intentional movement. And finally, recovery matters. Hydration, gentle stretching, reasonable rest. These are not signs of weakness. They are part of sustainable movement habits that support the body long term. One important thing many adults discover later in life is that health is rarely determined by one giant decision. It is usually shaped by small, repeated habits. The way you move every day, the way you recover, the way you sit, the way you sleep, the way you manage stress. These patterns quietly influence how the body feels over time. And walking may become one of the most powerful daily habits because it supports multiple systems simultaneously: circulation, mobility, balance, muscle activity, joint movement, mental clarity, energy levels, even mood. And perhaps most importantly, regular walking helps people maintain independence. That matters tremendously later in life. The ability to move confidently, to climb stairs, to walk outdoors comfortably, to travel, to stay active with family. These things affect quality of life enormously. That is why walking should never be viewed only as exercise. It is part of maintaining freedom of movement over time. And remember this, the body is always adapting, even after 50, even after years of inactivity, even after periods of stiffness or discomfort. People often underestimate how responsive the body still is when movement becomes more consistent and more supportive. One man in his 60s explained that he originally started walking simply to stay active. But after several months of improving his walking habits, he noticed better balance, less stiffness in the morning, improved energy, and greater confidence moving around outdoors. Another woman shared that walking stopped feeling like a chore once she slowed down, fixed her posture, and stopped forcing herself into exhausting long walks. That is important, because sustainable habits should feel supportive, not punishing. And healthy aging is rarely about extremes. It is usually about consistency, small choices repeated long enough to matter. So after this video, do something simple. Take a walk. Not a perfect walk. Not an intense walk, just a more intentional one. Start slowly. Pay attention to posture. Let your arms move naturally. Put the phone away. Notice your breathing. Notice your pace. And afterward, notice how your body feels. Because sometimes very small adjustments create surprisingly meaningful changes over time. If you found this video helpful, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications for more videos focused on healthy aging, mobility, balance, posture, circulation, and practical wellness after 50. And now I would love to hear from you. How old are you, and which walking mistake do you think affects you the most right now? Leave it in the comments below. Thank you for spending this time with me today. Keep moving. Take care of your body. And remember that the way you move every day quietly shapes the way you feel over the years ahead.